Hello guys and welcome back. So in this section we'll talk about the built-in structural directives that we have in Angular. Okay, so to do that, I'll first create a component wherein I can load all these things. So I'll name this component, I'll generate it using Angular CLI. So NgG for generate C4 component, and in the components folder I'll create a component named built-in structural directives, like so. Okay, so this should create the component for me. I'll add it to the route so that I can have access to it. So if this is str-dir, then it should take me to built-in structural directives. It will also import it from its respective path. I'll copy this path right here and save it. And now in the components header in here, I'll add a router link to that as well. Built in structural directives, like so. So if I go back to the application now and click on this, then it should load up the component. Okay, now let me just open this component. I'll just close other files and so. All right, so let's first talk about NgFor. We already know the syntax and all. We have used it quite a lot of times in our previous sessions, but let's again quickly go through them. So let's say I have an array of messages, okay, and this is a string array, like so. Okay, I can define them right here, or let's just do that in the ng-on init. So this dot messages equal to, this is going to be a list of messages, message 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say 5 would be sufficient for right now. Okay, now if I wanted to display these messages in here, I'll use an unordered list with a class of list group, inside which I'll have an li or list item with a class of list group item. Okay, so this is going to generate the markup for me, and now I can simply iterate through these messages using the NgFor directive. Okay, this is a structural directive, so we use it with an asterisk sign. Okay, and this in here we can do something like let message of messages, and we can also get the index of a particular message by doing let I equal to index. Okay, so now in this list we can do something like index would be I and message would be message, like so. Okay, let's save this and go back to the application. So now we should have this list with these messages. Okay, so the index is a zero based index. It starts from 0 and goes through the length of this array -1. Okay, so this is how you can use NgFor. Now to use NgIf, let's say if I wrap this inside a parent div, like so. Okay, and then below that I have a button. Okay, I'll name it I'll define the class as btn and btn hyphen primary. Okay, and then this should toggle list visibility like so. Okay, so clicking this button will be toggling the visibility of this list. So to do that, we will have to define a boolean that should basically tell the template whether it needs to show the list or not. Okay, so show list is going to be a boolean. It would be defaulted to true. Let's save this, and in here we'll use the NgIf directive. So again, since this is a structural directive, as it is removing a particular element from the DOM or showing or adding it to the DOM, it would be prefixed with an asterisk sign, and in here we can specify the variable name like so. Okay, and now in the click event handler of this button, I'm simply going to toggle the show list. So show list would now be equal to not of show list like so. Okay, so if I save this, go back to the application, I should see a button. Right now it's true. If I click on toggle, then it would be hidden, the list would be hidden from the DOM again like so. Okay, now the user experience is a bit um, irritating because I have to again and again go from top to bottom to just get a hold of that button. So I'll place it at the top so that the button stays where it is and the list gets hidden or showed. Okay, so this is how you can use the structural directives like NgIf and NgFor. Okay, now you cannot do something like use two structural directives on a same element. Okay, it's going to give you an error. So let's say if I try doing that, I'll first use NgIf and then NgFor on this list item. If I save, then I'll be getting an error. It will say that template parse error can't have multiple template bindings with one element. Use only attributes name template or prefix with an asterisk sign. Okay, so this basically gives us an error if we use multiple structural directives on a same element. So that is something that should be taken care of and it should not be used. So I'll just undo the changes and place the directive on this div like so. If I save back and if I save and go back, then I should see the functionality to work as expected again. Okay, so there is one more structural directive that is provided by Angular, and that is NgSwitch. So let's quickly see that in action as well. So I'll use NH4 here and I'll define this as um, NgSwitch like so. Okay, and I'll go to the Bootstrap's um, website here and I'll copy this markup like so. Okay, so we have four elements in here and each element uh, has something in here. Okay, so I'll just copy all these. I'll press Control D to select all these dots. Okay, and then I can paste my markup like so. Okay, so it will make changes to all these things. And this generally is a shortcut that can be used in Visual Studio Code, and that's why I like it. So now we have these divisions with some text on them. Okay, I'll have to, I guess, add different text for different type of message, and then oh snap, like so. All right, so let's save this and see how it looks like on the application. So we can see these four of them right here. Okay, but let's say I wanted to switch between these views depending on a particular value. Okay, so let's say I had an input field here, type text, and I had an ng model of, let's say, mm, alert type. Okay, so I'll quickly define this alert type in the template here, and it is going to be a string. Okay, now it's going to give me an error because I've used ng model, but I might not have imported the forms module. So that is something that I'll have to do. So forms module, this can be imported from Angular/forms. Okay, and I've imported it now. So let's save this and go back. Mm, okay, so now we see an input field here. Okay, and I'll go back to the template here. I'll style it up a bit so that, so I'll add a class of form control. Okay, that would give it a better look and feel. I'll also place a line break so that there's some space. Okay, now if I type something in here, then I want that these messages should show up depending on what I've typed. Okay, so what I can do in that case is I can specify a div here. That would be a parent wrapping div. Okay, and for all these four divisions that we have here, let's use the ng switch. Okay, and the value of this is going to be alert type. Okay, and for each of these that we have here, each div, we'll be using another div or another um, directive named ng switch for, like so. Okay, and now if the text that is typed in is success, then I'll show this one. If it is info, then I'll show this one. If it is warning, then I'll show this one, and if it is danger, then I'll show this one. And then I'll also show one more for the default, and this doesn't really require any value, so like so. Okay, and this would just be alert. This is the default case. Okay, if I save this, I'll get an error. NgSwitch can't bind to NgSwitch for since it isn't a known property of a division. Oh, so maybe I forgot something. Let's see what the issue is here. Looks like I screwed up with some syntax here, so let's check again. Oh, Okay, so the NgSwitch that we have here needs to be a property binding. Okay, we need to share the actual property value of this one. This needs to be a property binding. Let's save this and go back. And then we have an issue again, NgSwitch for since it isn't a known property. Okay, let's quickly go to the documentation. It's saying that it can't bind to NgSwitch for since it isn't a known property, and that strikes to me as something that is a part of a different module. Let's go to the NgSwitch's um, documentation here, and it's a part of the common module here. So I guess I'll have to add the common module as well to the imports array that we don't really have right now. So let's just import the common module. I'll simply copy. Oh, maybe I'll simply type the common module from at Angular slash common like so, and then I'll have to add the common module to the imports array as well so that it could be used. Let's save this now and go back to the application. We have the issue again. Let's just break the application and try to run it again. This shouldn't be the case. So let's wait for it to get served up. Okay, so now it's serving up. If I go back, then I'm still getting an error. Strange. Let's go to the documentation of NgSwitch as well and check. The error that we are getting is ng switch for is not a known property. If I go to the NgSwitch documentation here, then it says that NgSwitch. Oh, okay. So NgSwitch case is something that should have been used instead of NgSwitch for. My bad. Again, let's save and go back to the application. Okay, so now we have this thing running up. So if I type something like success, then it's checking the default state. Well, looks like there is some issue with the template markup as well. I guess this should be the actual value and not something wrapped. So if I don't really do something like this, then it will check for a property named success in the component class that I don't really have. So I'll have to use strings here instead of that, or maybe I'll have to use property bindings, but let's go with strings as of now. So let's save this and go back. So right now I'm seeing the default case expected. If I type in success, then I get the success alert. If I type in well, info, I get the info thing. If I type in danger, then I get danger, and primary. Okay, what was that? Success info, danger, and warning. So if I type in warning, then I get the warning text. Okay, so this is how we can use the built-in structural directives like NgIf, NgFor, and NgSwitch. Okay, now in the next video we'll talk about using some built-in attribute directives. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.